please never make me work on the weekend. Like when Katie and I schedule stuff, I'm like, do we have to? And she's like, yeah, this is the only time that works for everyone. And I'm like, fine.
Thank you for being a pal.
Oh, hey. I'm sorry. For the last few months, I've been trying to figure out this crossword puzzle, and I just can't figure it out. And that's where we've been. That's where I've been. Sorry, Cole has been waiting on me. I just can't figure out this damn crossword puzzle. Oh, what's up, pals? Welcome back to another episode of Pentool Pals, a friendly graphic design podcast between two graphic designers. My name is Canvas Cam with Canvas Design Company.
And I'm Cole from Cole Off Design. Thanks so much for joining us on another week of Pentool Pals.
Hell yeah. What's up, pal?
Not much. Just getting back in the groove of things. I feel like I've been a really good, steady workflow where I feel like work is fun. And I'm putting some cool stuff out there. I'm enjoying the process. Things are going well. I'm happy. How's everything with you?
It's good, man. I've kind of taken the time just to kind of dive into my work head first. There for a while, I wasn't getting anything, especially after the holidays. Like, I was just any little job that would come in, I was just like kind of scraping to get it. But, I've gotten a pretty solid workflow. I've got a big project hopefully coming up soon that I'm really, really excited about. But yeah, in the last few months, I've just been kind of trying to restructure, get a healthy work balance, work and life. But yeah, other than that, I've tried to level up my skill level a little bit, which is, hard. You got to try to adapt new things, but I've been really trying to dive into more complex illustration building.
Cool. That's awesome, man.
I've always kind of been like, my illustration skills have always lacked, I feel, and that's just personally. So I've really just tried to try to be a better illustrator.
What are some things that you've been doing that have helped you try to improve?
Take more time, reference, but also just when something isn't working, just focus on it to flush it out, make it work. Ultimately, it's stop thinking about how long it's going to take. And because I have a bad habit of trying to get artwork done as fast as possible, and that's just years and years of trying to cut corners. And you can't cut corners in art. You can and you can't. And so
like they happen for you. Do you ever like do some work and then you're like, oh, like this isn't working out, and then you just kind of start playing with shit, and then all of a sudden you actually mess up, but that mess up was like a Bob Ross happy mistake,
the happy accident.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That happens to me a lot, and then I go, oh wait, like that does work, but like this, and then that turns into a lot of like happy accidents. Happy
for sure. Art is supposed to be free. It's supposed to be freeing. It's not supposed to be constricting.
I will say though, but design is supposed to be
different story.
Yeah, right. Like, because we're actually going to be solving a problem with what we're creating. So
yeah,
there are like boundaries with art. Just go fucking put whatever you want on something. But for design, it's like you have to intently create something to get to an end goal and solve whatever problem is happening. Like whatever you're trying to shift or maneuver your brand focus towards, or their brand focus towards, because it's usually for somebody else.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's a huge difference between doing something for yourself and doing something for a client.
Yeah, for sure.
You have to meet their expectations. You could think something looks really, really cool, but they like your favorite thing about the piece is what they hate the most.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
and then at the end of the day, when they're paying you, that's unfortunately what
you got to
matters
compromise.
The most is their opinion.
Yeah. There has been so many things. It's kind of goes both ways. Their suggestion could really make the design look like really good, or it could make it look like shit.
Like 50-50.
But as long as they like it in the handoff, then that's what's most important.
their comments towards whatever you had just proposed to them are right, but the way that they told you to do it is wrong.
Yeah.
So what you need to figure out is, okay, now you know where they need the end goal to be, which is right, but it's up to you on how to like actually do that the best way that you know how to possible. And usually how they told you to do that is just wrong. So that's just my 2 cents. That's how
Something I've had to work on a lot is communication, because if there's solid communication, you can't control how the client talks to you, but if you come off in a respectful way, even if you're trying to tell them, because I had to tell someone a few months back, like, hey, do you want to sell this design? Like, trust me, if you want to sell this design in a respectful way, you need to listen to me. Basically there was a design that looked like a dick, and and I was like, and the way it shaped up looked like this, and I had to go like, hey, it looks a little phallic. We want to let's go back.
Was it something that you made?
Yeah, it was something. I won't go into detail. But
no, I'm just saying, did you pass off something that looked like a dick and then you told them not to keep it?
So the way that the design was when I presented it first, it didn't. But there was a part of this design that the changes it had, it was like a dripping part of an illustration. Communication is key.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to say
penises in their designs.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you like to hide stuff in there.
Anyways,
anyway, who we got on the show, Cole?
Yeah, we've got an incredible duo who has just absolutely created the most amazing community of artists and lettering artists, specifically Goodtype, Ilana and Katie.
Yeah, super excited to have them on. I followed that page for so long, and I understand they've gone through a few different people who run the page, but just in the last few years, they've been like, their marketing has been a powerhouse, inspiring young artists, young lettering artists, posting some of the best looking type design that I've ever seen. So very excited to have them on, chat them up and whatnot.
Yeah, we're also in for a treat because they are just now showcasing their new rebrand. So we get a first inside look of that rebrand, and we get to talk with Ilana about all the cool things about what Goodtype's up to and the ways to structure a freelance business, really.
Yeah. Well, without further ado, Cole,
let's get her in the chat.
Woo! Well, Ilana, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you? Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
but
she's still here in spirit. Well, I'm good. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Pentool Pals. It's been a while since we've even done this, so we're kind of welcoming you back, or welcoming you into us starting to kind of do this again. So welcome.
I love it. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, if you want, tell us where you guys are located, and are you guys in the same spot, or do you guys do this remotely? Yeah,
remotely. Yeah.
I'm actually in upstate New York. I'm not in New York City, and Katie's in Austin, Texas.
Oh, wow.
We actually worked together. I think this is kind of a similar story to you. You've only met a couple times, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We've only met once. For the longest time, we were like, "Are you catfishing me? This seems too good."
Yeah,
but nope, not happening.
I remember hearing that on your guys' YouTube, and I was just like, "Oh, it's so similar to me and Cole."
Yeah.
So you guys met online as well?
Yeah. So we met. I slid into her DMs.
There you go.
Nice. And I basically reached out to her, and I was like, I was following her work. I really liked it, and then she mentioned she was going to do an online course, and I was like, oh, that's so funny. I'm going to do something on a similar topic. Like, I can't wait to take yours because I'm obsessed with your work. And she says the way she describes it is she like had a moment, and she was like, oh man, this girl who like seems pretty cool is going to do the same thing as me. Like, that sucks. And then I think she was talking with her husband, and he was like, like, that's not the attitude you always have. Or maybe she just realized like that's not what she would say to someone else. So she was like, why don't we just do this together? And I was like, okay, sure. You seem like you have your shit together. So, yeah, then we were like, oh, I guess we're starting a business.
Nice.
Well, you guys have done such an amazing job since then. I mean, you guys have amassed an amazing following. I'd love to hear more about like the idea behind the conception of Goodtype.
Yeah. So Goodtype was founded by Brooke Robinson, and just the beginning. So we're new to Goodtype. So we had our own thing going on.
Mhm.
And then back in like October, Brooke kind of planted the seed with us. And honestly, there was like no planting. She was like, and we were like, yes.
Nice.
But basically she started Goodtype when she was riding her bike across the country and was just documenting all this found type that she
Mhm.
saw on her way. And it just, it was like right at the beginning of when Instagram was like sharing artwork and people were kind of finding their voice. And she started tagging the artists that she saw and admired. And then they got excited and then they wanted to join. And so she really like unintentionally, I think, was just trying to spread love. And
Yeah.
when you meet her, you're like, oh yeah, she is the nicest person ever. Like she's so sweet. And so when she came to us and was like, we did a collaboration. And she was like, I love the way you're trying to educate artists. It's what I've been wanting to do at Goodtype, but like, I don't have enough hands or capacity. And I have other projects I want to pursue. Do you want to come take the reins? And we were like, we do.
Sick. Yeah.
So,
I followed Goodtype for God, probably like six years or something
Right.
like that. And they've been there. I think that the account is what made me more hyper aware of how important type is.
yeah. I mean, I think I found Katie by following Goodtype. Like everyone has like, it's so crazy. And I feel like I can talk about it from an outside perspective because I started as just a follower.
Yeah.
And everyone talks about it as like this entity, this like living brand that is community. And that's Katie and I were trying to build that
with Lumiere, right? That's your actual
exactly.
company.
And we
Yeah.
were like, this has to be a community where people feel like they can ask questions. There's no gatekeeping. And then Brooke came to us. We never even imagined that it would turn into this. Like we weren't ever like, we want to build something like Goodtype. Like we were just focused on what we wanted to deliver. And so when Brooke came to us, like even on the call with her, we were like, is this kismet? Like, is this supposed to be like, this seems so aligned for everyone. And it's great too, because Katie and Brooke actually live both in Austin. So they've been able to meet up in person and
Nice.
check in with her regularly just to make sure we're doing things. Like today we launched the rebrand. And so we
saw that Hoodspud did a great job.
Yeah. Oh my God. They're the coolest. The team behind Hoodspud, they are like ultimate level of cool.
Yeah.
So we were so pumped to work with them. And yeah, it's just been like a very crazy couple of months trying to like figure out what the transition looks like for everyone. And, making sure Brooke is giving her input and like on our team. And she's so great. And also doing it from like different time zones, like Katie's over there, I'm over here. The Hood sisters are on the West Coast. So it's been really fun. And we're learning a lot very, very quickly. So that's the like 4-minute inception of Goodtype as it is today.
Since I've heard it, for sure. I appreciate all your insight too.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to get your opinion because the name says it itself. I want to know what your opinion is. What is Goodtype? Okay, like how can we, if you're scrolling through Instagram, how can we establish what true Goodtype is?
Oh, like how do you see it when you know it?
How do you see it when you know it? Yeah, exactly.
So Katie and I have a filter because we've hired a team and some of that team is helping us curate the Instagram. And so Katie was like, how do we tell someone else what to look for? Like Brooke was an amazing curator and still is an amazing curator. And so all we told them was it has to be really fucking cool. Like you have to stop. I'm sorry, I have a potty mouth.
So do I, and so do we. We're all good.
No, that's fine.
You can say whatever the fuck you want on this podcast.
Katie was like, this is my filter is when I'm looking through, it has to be something that stops me in my tracks and says, this is really cool. Like I haven't seen this before. And obviously some stuff is like more mind blowing than others, but it's still really good. And I think part of what helps is that Katie and I have traditional backgrounds in graphic design, but not everyone on our team does. Or like not everyone who's following us does. So we posted a reel once that was like about the foundations and the anatomy of type. And some people in the comments were like, I already knew this. And it's like, not everyone does though.
Who cares?
Like, good for you.
Hey, cool. You
Yeah.
discovered this page at one point, maybe a few years ago. Someone just discovered it today and needs that information.
Yeah. And it's like something might be breaking the rules too much, or someone might not like it, but that's not every post is for everyone. Not every brand is for everyone. And so for us, it's just something that we think is really cool and like deserving of. One of the biggest things is finding underdogs that we think deserve more spotlight. And we've been blessed with this platform that we can do that, and hope to share work of people who we want to see get recognition, whether it's recognition because no one's quote unquote discovered them, or if it's just like they don't show up on Instagram that often, like whatever. We just want people to like see great art and make them feel things, but also to recognize how great something is, whether it's traditional, whether it's breaking boundaries, whether it's like doing things the quote unquote wrong way. And so that's our filter. It's as simple as that. It's like, is this really cool? Okay, cool. Yeah, post it. Like, and also we are very big, and Brooke really set the precedent for this, is like no hate speech, 100% inclusive. Like, we're not going to post anything that's going to be like polarizing to someone. And we really try and listen to what people are saying. And then also asking our friends in our community, like, who is someone who you want to see, and always being mindful, or doing our best to be mindful of learning, unlearning, and looking, like intentionally going out and looking for people who are what we would consider doing amazing work. So it's subjective. I mean, it's art, but yeah, that's our base level. Is this really cool?
I love it.
Good base level to have.
Starting pages like that are so hard. Like, I've probably done like 2, thinking like, oh, this is a cool way to showcase like other artists, because I've always been about the other artists, like I try to support other designers as much as I can, and buying merch or sharing artwork and stuff. But it's really hard to kind of, actually have a page and it be successful without looking like kind of mediocre yourself. And Goodtype just passed 1 million followers recently, right?
Yeah.
Was it like, recently?
Not that recently.
Okay.
But, yeah, it did.
Yeah, I remember seeing it and going like, crap, like this page has 1 million followers now. That's wild.
Right? Yeah, I mean, not all of them are engaged, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how the algorithm works.
I know.
And we actually, to like humble myself, we just started a TikTok, and like there's 4 followers. So like, it just doesn't always translate.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, I think Brooke started something before people. I think that's one of the ways people grow platforms, is you start something before someone else has done it. And I think Brooke really and I can put her on a pedestal because I didn't do it. I didn't do that hard work. She did something out of pure passion, which I think is always a recipe for something great. And just like was curious. Like, she never set out. She wasn't like, I want to be an influencer. Actually, quite the opposite. Like, she never shared anything personal on the page. She always kept the community front and center. And that's what I think has made it so great, is that, she did workshops where people could meet each other in person. She helped people feel inspired, see new work. And then with the Goodtype Tuesday prompts, which is just like a quick prompt to help you create something on a Tuesday, we have like 48 hours to create it. That just gave people like the juice that they needed to sit down and make something. And so she had a lot of great ideas, and we're so thankful that she like planted this, basically a tree, not a seed. And really what we're doing is we're coming in with the education piece of it. Workshops were something she always did, but we're coming in with like the business side of things and saying like, you can be an amazing artist, but if you don't have the business tools or know how to access those, then you can't build an art business. And so it sounds harsh to say that, but you have to have a balance between being inspired, staying inspired, making the work, and then actually doing the things that make a business happen. So Yeah,
That's true. And you're also kind of giving here, I'll run back for a second. There's like the golden question about how to grow and add value to an Instagram page, and like how right now Instagram's basically saying that if you don't add value to your followers, you're not going to grow at a rate that is continuous, right?
totally.
So if you're just an aesthetic based thing, then typically you're not going to get as much reach or like growth, right?
Yeah.
But if you're consistently adding value, and whatever that value proposition is up to your own specific brand. For a lot of us, it's just inspiration to your followers, right?
Mhm.
But if you can add another level to that, which I think that Goodtype does, is adding like some sort of how to run your business or how to get new ideas or how to do this, and you have all these workshops, then you're going to see an incredible growth like you have to all this like 1 million growth, you know? So that's true incredible value. And
Yeah.
I wanted to pop up a little example of what you guys have done, if you don't mind. It's the how to make $100,000 as an artist tab, which I think is so perfect for this. I'll share my screen.
I just switch the settings so you can.
Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, I just thought this post was so cool and intuitive and informative. But just something like this is like so many artists don't really understand like how attainable something like $100,000 salary really is if you just break it down into something as simple as this post.
I have like so much to say on this.
Yeah, please go for it.
I'm gonna like run my mouth. So the first thing is that we have basically like a chief content creator and like social media manager, but like so much more than that. And this was our most successful, like probably our most quote unquote successful topic on when we were Lumiere. And so we brought it over and tried to like explain it in a different way for Goodtype. And there are like two huge things here. People talk about like, oh my God, you got to make 6 figures all the time. And you're like, please shut up. Like, if you're not going to explain to me how you're making 6 figures, then I don't care.
Yeah.
The other thing
100%.
is this like starving artist stereotype is just nonsense. Like, people are making money making TikToks, like hundreds of like millions of dollars making TikToks. Okay. Like let's like squash that. But then there's also like, okay, how are you actually doing it? And when you break it down and you figure out taxes and the expenses to do all of these things, like most artists probably want more than $100,000, especially depending on where you're living. Like I'm in upstate New York where things are way less expensive than in New York City or in LA. But, you know, there's a fine line between telling you to take on these 5 income streams or 6 or 7 or whatever, and actually running a sustainable business where you can step back and hire people and like have support. Like we in no way would ever tell someone we'll take 5 things and go full force on all of them. But what we teach in our classes, how in any of our class or content is, okay, well, how do you focus on one income stream, get it to a point where it can like maintain itself so you can focus on another and add another, and then to like double dip them so that you're not creating more and more work. You're just working way smarter so that the work that you do create ends up making more money for you, whether that's through licensing or like taking freelance work you've done and then turning it into a digital product. Like we grew up in the girl boss culture where like you have to work more and more and more and more. And it's actually like just working differently than I think we were programmed, at least as millennials, like what we thought you had to do like 9 to 5. And if you wanted more money, you needed a job after your 9 to 5.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the same thing with like how we didn't even realize that full-time freelance was like a possibility. You know, it seems like an unattainable feat before you.
I did not know.
Yeah. I when I quit my day job, I was trying to get some like, you know, portfolio printed out, and this printer guy goes, wait, you're a graphic designer? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you can do that independently? I was like, I'm gonna try. He literally was like, he kind of felt like the disbelief, like you're gonna fail. And I was like, no, I'm not.
Yeah. The great thing is that I grew up with entrepreneur parents, and So I
Mhm.
knew that knew that anything was possible, but never in school did they ever teach me anything about being able to do it for myself. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I think I can make this a full-time job. But I definitely wasn't like, I can definitely make this a full-time job. That's a thing people do. Like,
Yeah.
looking back, I realized that all my professors were freelancing on the side. Like,
hmm
everybody's freelancing on the side. It's totally possible. And I think now, many years later, it's so different because of this like content creation world we live in, where everyone can be a designer and everyone can work for themselves. But it's also like, let's make sure we know the risks. And also, not everyone has to. People can just do it as a side hustle and make a couple extra dollars, or do it for fun. And like,
Of course.
there's going to be that range for sure. And for us, learning about the business side of things, like, we actually really, both Katie and I really enjoyed. And I know for most people, especially if you're like, whatever it is, right brained or whatever, it's hard to figure out.
Oh yeah, right
Okay.
brain is more like technical, right? Left
Yeah.
brain is the creative side.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
really hard to like,
Or right brain drawings. Yeah,
I don't
right.
know.
My bad. I'm gonna mess this up.
It's hard to like shift and be like, well, I just want to make things all day. Like, Katie and I do like making things, but we actually find the like strategy behind things really interesting too. And not everyone like enjoys that, but when you can learn it the way that your brain wants to learn it, then like magic can happen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
yeah, tying those knots together, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, taking the first leap of faith into whatever your freelance business is definitely the scariest part. And when we talk about like a side hustle, I think that for most, it'd be the easiest access to like a freelance position, because you're not taking such a big leap of faith or a big like step into the unknown of like, where's my next paycheck coming, right? You have something that's stable in your life, and then you have something that's very uncertain, and then you're just going to see which one is taking over enough of your time, right? Because that's going to allow you to maneuver the freelance world with ease. At least that was something that was at least in my personal experience, where
Yeah,
I just
same.
Totally.
I didn't have the pressure to make freelance work. It was simply something that I wanted to do for fun. And then I realized that it was a business that was easily accessible. Really all that needed was more time put into it. And it grew on its own, right?
Right. It's kind of funny now because I look back at what I did. Like, I worked my full-time job as an art director, and I would say yes to every project. I would work every single night. I would work every weekend. Like, I had no life. And at the time, I was like so pumped about it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And obviously that's like a recipe for creative burnout and like
Yeah.
not having a life and lots of other things. And now I have 2 kids and like can't imagine not being in bed at a reasonable hour or like looking at the computer screen for that many hours. And I obviously had no boundaries, but that was when I was excited to not have any boundaries. Like, I was so pumped about I was maybe like borderline obsessive about it, but like, that's why it worked. It's because I was so into it and I was so excited to try these new things, regardless of if they were the coolest project in the world or just like something simple. And like, the creative challenge, like flexing my creative muscles, to me was like so much fun. And if you don't feel that excitement about it, like, I don't think it's really worth doing. Like,
Totally.
if you're not like, I'm gonna work on the weekend for this. Now I'm like, please never make me work on the weekend. Like, when Katie and I schedule stuff, I'm like, do we have to? And she's like, yeah, this is the only time that works for everyone. And I'm like, fine.
When it's for
That's
yourself,
funny.
I'm taking Friday off.
yeah. When it's for yourself, then it's fulfilling, at least for my own personal experience. Like, but when it's for somebody else, I felt like there was always this like, so what, like what am I doing this for? And I think that's like a personality trait that like a lot of people have in the workforce, where they're just like, oh, like screw this, I want to be doing something else on a Friday. But then like you have your own business, and like your success is completely dependent on your own success. So like,
Right.
you're like, hey, like I'm gonna make whatever calls I need to. I'm gonna do whatever I need to, and if I need whatever, then it just means that my success is in my own hands.
Totally.
Yeah. And I think like a round of applause for the people who love their job so much and are so happy and can set those boundaries. Like I know someone who has a 9 to 5 as a creative director and has like a side hustle that, ebbs and flows, and they love their full-time job. It gives them the stability, the healthcare. It's fun to talk to people, instead of talking to yourself or your dog. And
That's me.
yeah, I just have to say, like, good for you. Like, that's so cool. My husband, I like applaud that he can go to work and come home and like be done with work. I think that, my office is in our house. I'm like, it's right there. Like I can never turn it off. And I think it's amazing when people are so excited about the jobs that they're into, especially if they want to bring their creative hustle like to their job in some way, if it's like different than their job, or if they like have those lines where it's almost like any hobby. If you love there's a fine line between loving your hobby enough that you want to do it like all the time after work and doing your hobby as a job.
Yeah. I teeter between having an unhealthy relationship with how much I enjoy working. Like there's some days to where it's like I spend from 8 a.m. to midnight behind my desk working on projects, some days the only people I talk to are my floor managers, which are my dogs, and so and so it's like, I have to remind myself to have a life, because like if I don't go outside a majority of the day, by the end of the day I'm going to just be so burned out. I'm going to be asking myself why I'm doing this. Do I even want to keep doing this? And I think as artists we need to set up boundaries for ourselves to be able to think clearly. And that's going outside sometimes. That's kind of stepping away from the project that you're looking forward to doing the most.
So I have like 7 follow-up questions. The first is for sure the most important. What breed are your floor managers?
I have 2 French bulldogs.
Oh, nice.
One is a year and a half. His name is Herman.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And our second one is Frankie. He's about 8 months.
Oh my God.
He is as goofy looking as you could possibly think.
Yeah, for sure. We have a 16-year-old lab and a retriever, a black retriever, a flat coated. He's a rescue, so that's what we're going with. Who knows? But they're quiet. They like don't.
Yeah, I'm actually really surprised that they're both chill out right now.
Yeah,
because like there's some podcasts where you can hear them playing in the background. Like, sorry guys.
It's not a live event if Katie's dog Piopi, because he's like an Aussie doodle, so he's
cool.
like 8 months old and like getting really big. Every time he just like tramples through, and like you see Katie's computer like flip over upside down and like the whole world shuts down for a second. It's so funny. Okay, but what I was going to say is like, how are you learning to set those boundaries? For me, it took having children. And I was like signing contracts in the hospital, and like I would be nursing my baby while I was like typing. The lines were blurred for a while, but now I'm better.
That's good.
But it was really hard to learn those boundaries. I'm curious, like, how do you get yourself out? How did you learn the boundaries? How did you figure out what worked for you?
I still struggle with it. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I just have to remind myself that, my friends kind of miss me. And I miss them. But I don't know. It's one of those things to where, health reasons is another one. Like you can't just sit behind your desk all day. You're sitting. I've cultivated some mass, as Mac would say, from It's Always Sunny. But it's one of those things where it's like you're only going to have a better relationship with your work if you have a better relationship with yourself.
Ooh,
and
that's a tweetable.
That's probably the most refined thing I've ever said on this podcast.
Beautiful. Well
but I'm learning to have a healthy relationship with myself. I'm starting to go to the gym. I have to mentally prepare myself to be able to work efficiently. And that's something, it's like, when I'm doing bad as a creative, when I have a bunch of stuff on my desk that I'm struggling with, when I'm staring at it for too long, And, you can put up blinders when you're, I put up blinders when I'm, trying to force it. It's something so obvious will be in front
Oh
of me
my
and how
gosh,
I
yeah.
can solve it. But if I just went outside and if I just maybe rode my bike or go to the gym or even go to see a movie with my girlfriend, you know, when I come back, my brain is going to be so fresh and new.
Yeah.
And so that's something I'm learning. That's how I'm starting to disconnect from
Yeah.
always being, always, because I obsess over design,
Totally.
and, that can also be a very unhealthy relationship as well,
Yeah.
so I hope that answered your question.
No, that's amazing. Having a business partner has helped me too, because we have really different strengths. And
Mhm.
so I think our egos get involved a lot because we live in a world that's like socially driven, and we have to like meet these new milestones that we've set for ourselves. And Katie can often bring me back down to earth when I'm like obsessing over something small,
Yeah.
like sending out the wrong Zoom link or like putting the time wrong on a post, like, like little things. And she'll be like, it's like, it's not really a big deal. Like, let's make it better next time by slowing down. But I would struggle a lot to make social meetings because I feel like my time is like so pressed.
Mhm.
I have this short window to work, and then I have this window to be with my kids. And then by the time they're in bed, I'm so exhausted. And then I wake up really early to work out because I like to, like, not, that's when I like to go work out. The house is quiet, the gym is quiet. And a couple weeks ago, I was invited to go get coffee with a couple local business women. And I was like, I mean, they're really nice, but like I have other things on my to-do list. And I was like, screw it, I'm going to go. And I was like, oh, wow, I feel so much better. It's once every 2 weeks for like an hour, and we can talk through things. And then I go back to work so pumped to be back at my desk.
Yeah.
And it was such a struggle for me to just commit to that. I mean, it's just coffee.
Yeah. And it's like you can sacrifice an hour out of your day
hour.
once every few weeks. Like,
Yeah.
and that's something I struggle with too, is like breaking away from my desk during work hours, my friends will ask me to go get coffee or, whatever. And I say no. And I created a habit to where they don't even invite me to stuff. And I'm not saying this as it's sad, but it got to the point to where they stopped
Hoping that they
inviting
watch
me
this
to,
right now and
I
start
know.
inviting you back to coffee meetings.
Oh, Cam, do you want to go see a movie? No, but
And when you're self-employed, it's like you want people to take your job seriously, and you
Yeah.
want to take yourself seriously. So you don't want to just be like, oh yeah, I can just go do whatever I want during the day. When like you can, but you want to be responsible and take your business seriously. So there's definitely like this fine line. But if you're going to be more productive because you've gone and done something for yourself, I mean, I am obsessed with productivity. Like, name an app I haven't tried,
Nice.
and I'll do like the 20-minute timers and just be like, okay, I have to finish this. This is also speaking with a formally diagnosed ADHD artist since I was like, a preteen. So I've learned for like the past 20 years how to deal with ADHD for myself. Obviously, it's different for everyone, but I work in sprints, and I cannot sit for 6 hours and do the same thing unless it's a design and I'm in it at like 800% and the creativity is flowing. But if it's like an admin task, it's like I have to go really, really fast. I get it done. And then
I will say, without saying very many words, I'm right there with you.
Yeah. Right. So I'm like obsessed with the productivity apps, and the 20-minute timers to me, like, they're a game changer. If I can just do something that's not sitting at my desk for 20 minutes or 10 minutes, or just like change my scenery, that is like way more powerful than I think we give credit to, especially if people are working from home, post pandemic life or whatever. Just like go outside for like 4 minutes, or listen to a podcast. Habit stacking is cool when you like have two habits at the same time, like one that you like and one that you don't. I think that's probably not the right way to explain it, but like unload the dishwasher real quick. It takes 3 literally 3 minutes while you
I
listen.
have a very good relationship with my dishes.
Great.
I will when I'm at a standstill with a design, I just get up and I'll just start doing dishes to kind of,
Yeah.
it's mindless. It's just, plus I like cleaning, so that's another
Nice.
thing. So,
I
but
like this. Come
I've
on over anytime.
okay, sounds good. What I've done, especially it's like when you're in a situation to where it's like you don't have time to kind of leave the house. I've created a different, little atmosphere. I bought some outside patio furniture. Go
Nice.
outside, sketch some stuff. If you have, I just take my iPad with me and I'll put on a podcast or I'll listen to some music. And sometimes my neighbors will hear some death metal going on in the background, but I'm just sketching away, man. Like,
There are worse things they could hear, honestly, for
oh
sure.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
I think there's a lot of importance in doing things that also like just aren't like sketching just to sketch. I don't know the last time I did that. And I truly need to sit down and do that just to like remind myself why I'm in this business in the first place. But I used to like crochet. I would just sit and crochet because I couldn't just sit still. And so I would do something productive at the same time. And I think whatever that hobby is, whether it's creative or cleaning or, reading book, whatever it is, I think that goes so hand in hand with being a creative business owner in whatever capacity. But I think it's really easy to forget because we're so like laser focused on, I want to have this career. And we often lose sight of like, how am I actually going to build this career and how is it going to be successful? And creative burnout is probably not the way. It's not what I would like to take.
Yeah, it's easy to be on autopilot. It's just like task done, task done, task done. All of a sudden you're like 10 years down the line and you're like, what just happened? Like,
it's funny. The more I schedule things, like the more I like plan out my week, the more room I have to be like, oh, I can like the more spontaneity there's room for.
That was going to be the one thing that I was going to add was that deadlines for me have been the biggest game changer. Like, especially being your own boss, it's like you get to establish what ground rules and what deadlines you have. And I know that sounds so simple, but like in the beginning, I get a client, I'm like, oh, I could have this to you like right away. Tomorrow. Now I already did it. Yeah.
And then that just gave me anxiety thinking about it.
And then the next person comes in like a couple hours later and you just say the same thing. And then it compounds and compounds and compounds until when you miss a deadline, then all of a sudden something's crazy stacking up. And then that's where like I've felt the worst burnout I've ever had is in those situations. And then now I tell clients like crazy like buffered dates and then I get it to them much sooner and then they're happy and I'm happy and it's like and I just gave myself more days than I would have initially ever given anybody. So like it's just
totally,
it's funny how that circle of how do I say this, like calendar planning like can really help a mental state.
Right. If you think the project is going to take you 4 weeks, like just say it's going to take 6 and then you give yourself plenty of time to like do those ebbs and flows and to make it work. And then you can over deliver, which is like my favorite hack, like life hack. Like don't tell them everything you're planning to give them. Don't give away all your secrets and then over deliver and go like above and beyond, but make sure you're being paid for the amount of time and energy you're going to pour into it. Yeah, those deadlines are 100%.
I know. It's funny too as a client that like I don't think they understand the life hack of how to be a client sometimes because the ones that are like just obliviously nice and like good people and then like they're just giving like they don't budge on a quote and they don't like pay late and then they do all these things right and then they just get all this extra stuff and they're just like that's I'm always that person to them. Like I'm gonna be there immediately. I mean, I'm there for all my clients, but just obviously the ones that are just like always just perfect little clients. I'm like, thank you for just being like,
We've been like in the, we just got to finish working with Hoodspa and we were like on the other side when we realized we wanted to do a rebrand. Katie and I sat down, we were like, we're not going to do this ourselves, right? Like both of us have been doing branding for so long. We were like, this is way too much pressure. Like who would be our dream person to hire. And we both like immediately said the Hood sisters, Amy
Yeah.
and Jen. And it was so cool to be on the receiving end. And, you know, having Katie and being like, can we ask this? Or, you know, it was just such a cool experience. And if we ever are doing a project in the future, it's so nice that now we have that as like, we loved the way that they did this, you know, not that we're like taking something from them, but we learned by being the client, which I think as designers, like we usually don't get to do that. Like when has, maybe it would be cool if you could trade with someone, is like have someone design your logo and you design someone else's logo or something, and see what their process is like, so you can like workshop together.
Totally.
No,
That
I
just-
couldn't
that
do
just
that.
happened.
I would be probably really stoked what they came up with, but I'd be in my head going, mine's gonna suck. Mine's gonna suck.
Yeah, I mean, we have to, that's like, I mean, every artist ever, but the
Oh, I
thing
know.
is, like, yeah, it doesn't, for sure.
That just happened to me recently, where I tried to hire out for like some 3D animation work, and this agency brought me back. They're like, hey, yeah, I'll get you this quote, and they took a while to get this quote, and I'm like, come on, like just shoot me a number, I need to get this project out, you know. And they send me this deck, and then when I tell you this deck was cool, I'm like, this deck was super cool,
Right?
And I was just like, wow, this is gonna be expensive. And then I like took a second back and I looked through it, and I'm like, wow, it's gonna be expensive because they have this super cool deck, you know what I mean? So then I'm like, I need a super cool deck, so then I can have really expensive work too, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like obviously you range, like you're gonna have this, and this, but like now when I know that I'm gonna have this bougie client that's gonna be looking for all the nines, like I'm like, I'm gonna make a super cool deck, and like I was super inspired by theirs.
Right.
And then like that's, I mean, that at least for me had helped try to give myself a leg up and see what other people are doing, which I think is really beneficial.
And it's all in the presentation too. Like if you're going to be charging a ton of money, like the whole experience has to
Whole
match.
experience.
Yeah.
Totally matters more than
For
anything
sure.
else.
I've made more money since I updated my brand books
Yeah.
than ever before, just because like your presentation is everything. If you want to get paid a lot, you got to look expensive.
Yeah. And I was just talking to a friend this morning, and she was saying a bunch of the people who inquire with her have these great phone calls with her, but they're not booking. And she was like, they keep saying like, it's a little expensive. And I just said to her, like, okay, is the problem that you are attracting the wrong clientele, like the wrong budget? How can we filter those people out from the beginning? Or is it that you're not telling them your value? And I think that understanding your value and what you have to offer at, like, not to get too like woo woo, but offering, I have a book about manifestation. Like I can get just a little woo woo, but
A little woo-woo.
understanding your value and like what you do besides make things pretty as a design, like make things look really good. You have to understand way deeper, like what problem you're solving. And if your clients aren't getting that, like, it doesn't matter how bomb your deck is, like, they're not going to book. And so that's one of the things Katie and I do in our course. That's one of the things I do I have a book separate from Goodtype, is try and make sure artists understand that like they have so much value, but the value isn't just, I'm a really good artist. Like the value is I can take your X and transform it into Y. I can help communicate this. Or when you buy my product or when you purchase my service, I will take you from here to there. Like what is from A to B? And I think so many of us spend time focusing on the aesthetic and being like, I just have a really great aesthetic. Okay, well, what does it do? What does your aesthetic do when paired with this messaging? And, you know, we've gotten asked a couple of times, like, can you just put together a logo for us? That's like, I mean, sure, anybody could, but like, why? You're going to have to redo it because it's not going to like mean anything if it's not paired with the right color palette, the right strategy, the right messaging. Like it has to align with the people you're talking to. So it was really fun to go through that for our own business too. Not only like have we gone through that, like just talking and writing down our business plan for Goodtype, but then to go through it and to chat with Amy and Jen and be like, this is what we want. This is what we want it to feel like. This is the kind of person we're talking to. This is the vibe. And then to see what they come back with was just such a cool experience to like kind of remind us and to kind of set in stone and validate that that's what we thought, especially because we're coming into a community that's already existing, and to be able to hear what their impression was. It was just a really cool experience to be able to work with like designers that, you know, we put them on a pedestal because they're awesome, but then that are in our community, and just get that experience of working with someone a little bit different than us. It's
That's
really
awesome.
cool.
Absolutely. And like, just in general, I feel like with growth of a freelancer, at some point you're going to need to subcontract. And so like being able to like live through that, or to like understand what that experience is like at an early stage, like even if it's just a one-off project, and then you realize if that person's going to be there for you in the future when you need them, or if you don't, then like it's a very beneficial thing, like both ways.
Yeah. And
100%.
one of the things my dad taught me is that do the thing that you do best, and then literally hire out the rest. And I was like, how could I ever have someone help me with my design studio when I was freelancing? And then I was like, oh my gosh, so many ways. So the first thing was bookkeeping. Obviously, that's so easy to have someone help you with. Like, that is not my strength. But then I was doing a bunch of licensing work for this consistent client of mine. And so I drew out basically like a storyboard with thumbnails of what I wanted everything to look like. And I did like the world's roughest pencil sketch. I had the color palette, and I had like not inspiration images, but like I had like reference material sort of like, I'm going to use this style for my previous work. And then I did this, like, you know, the layout was locked up, and I hired another designer, and I was like, can you make this crisp and then color it? And my mind was blown. Like, yeah, of course they can.
Yeah.
And, you know, they were like a little more junior. They like were looking for this type of work, obviously. So they were excited for the opportunity.
Mhm.
And there were things I saw in their work that I knew I didn't have refined in my work. So it was like an added bonus of seeing how they took it to life. And then I was able to take that final file and do any tweaks with it. And I swear my mind was blown. And now we've obviously hired out in other ways, like having help with social media and, you know, admin things. But what we've done is we've kept a list of all the things we do that are repeatable, and figured out, okay, is this something someone else can do? If so, let's write down all the steps of how we do it so that someone can do it in the future.
Mm-hmm.
The things that we can't hand off are like, we do coaching calls with all of our active students. We write all the content for our courses. Obviously, no one else can write that content, but someone could come in and answer the emails. And if they're about a specific thing that said person doesn't know, we would answer them. Or someone could schedule the emails from the content we've written. Or someone could take our blog post or YouTube video and turn it into Instagram posts or whatever. Or someone could like help us curate, you know, those are things that other people can do. Like, someone can work on art with me. Like, it's not just my hand, but like, it's the whole process of ideation from start to finish. And there's like a bajillion steps in there. There's got to be at least one that someone else could do well, even if it takes a lot of training and hand-holding to like figure out how you would delegate it to someone, which I think that does take a lot of time, and finding the right person.
Yeah.
But I think you hire for personality, you don't hire for skill set. Like, you could, we live in a Skillshare world. Like, you could learn anything these days.
For sure. There's a class for it on Skillshare.
There's
No matter what
definitely
you want to do, crocheting, you can learn it.
Yeah.
It's all
I like
at
to
our
learn
fingertips.
baking, so feel free to send me your baking videos, anybody.
Finding
I'm
a
not
way
gonna do it.
to,
I'm not going to. It's too messy, and I don't have a, you know, chef's kitchen, but it looks cool.
Oh,
It looks
yeah.
like it would be fun.
finding a way for your business to be scalable is like just one of the most important things. You know, you're going to start here and go here. And one thing that designers of all things have always kind of talked about, or some have done really well, is create fonts and as like a separate part of their business strategy. Because while they're working, taking on client work, they have this font in their store, and they're, you know, just getting sold, and that's like a recurring revenue. And it's not even like something they have to go ship and package, right? It's just like a downloadable link. what do you think, Lana, about creating a font, and how, what would you say like the best steps to starting one would even be?
So nobody Google it, but I did make one from my hand lettering, and it's bad. I don't even know if I ever took it down. It could be floating on the internet, but I made it because I was like, this is gonna be a time save. Everyone who loves my lettering is gonna love it. And it turns out like the people who were following me were other lettering artists. Like, why would they want my hand lettered font? Like, that's my hand lettering. That's my basically my handwriting, you know, like it was like a very hand drawn, and also it wasn't good. Like, and I'm not saying that to be like
okay,
self-deprecating, but like as a font goes, like I didn't know what I was doing, and now I know a lot more about it. And I love looking at fonts. So I think passive income like that is amazing, but I think it has to be aligned with like, does it match your audience's needs?
Yeah,
Would they
exactly.
actually want to buy from you? So a great example is Aurelie Marin, I think is how you say her last name. We just did a workshop with her, and or Jimbo from Shout Bam. They both have like digital brushes, and what they do is their work is basically showing cool work that they've done, and then the comment section is always like, wait, how did you do this? Or what brush is that? And it's like, well, I made them into brushes, and here's a tutorial on how to do it, but also then here's the brush you can purchase. And that to me is like a perfect example. So you have
That's
this one
brilliant
bucket.
marketing. That is brilliant marketing.
Right. So it's, you have this one market who's coming to you because they've found, their art directors, they found your work and they want to hire you to use your style on their whatever project. But then there's this other bucket of your peers who want to do work like you're doing. Obviously, they're going to make it their own. And so now you have two different income streams from the same piece of work.
Yeah.
So I think passive digital income, passive income from digital products is a great way to go. It just, you have to make sure that you're putting out the type of work that is on the right path for that type of thing. So especially with fonts, like we just purchased a font and there's no ampersand. They're a lot of work. Fonts are a ton of work, and we're like, well, better get this ampersand soon. And so I think if you're going to do a font, like go take a class on how to do it. And then I think with sites like Creative Market, what I've heard is that you have to like really, you have to give what you want to get. And so if you want to get a lot out of it, you need to add a lot of content to it. Like you can't just put one font up and be like, I'm gonna make $1 million.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You gotta put that ampersand in there. You gotta do all the punctuation things. You know, you gotta make the presentation look pretty.
Presentation is huge.
Have a family, you know, and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And then show it in like 80 different ways. Like show it on your Instagram like 7 different times over a month. And then show it in your email and show it.
That's where like Mighty Short is like really, really successful with selling his stuff, because he'll post his fonts several times. And for me as a follower, like I've seen it a million times, but I understand he's got new followers who don't know. He posts several times a month, just the different things that he has. And it's a very useful way of selling.
I think we forget that like we talk about it once, only a percentage of people have heard it. And I think as artists, we never want to be, we're always, you know, a little protective and vulnerable about our work, but we forget that if we don't be our biggest fan, like who is going to be our biggest fan? And so we figure out a way to like detach and talk about our brand and our work as like, not all of us, it doesn't make up everything of who we are. You know, my friends post, like I see up maybe 1% of what they post. So they could be working on something I haven't heard about. And they're like, oh yeah, you know, that thing I'm working on. I don't know. Go ahead and tell me about it. Go ahead and like scream it from the rooftops, put it in stories, make a TikTok, post it on Reels. Like, I think we're so scared to like be annoying. When there's like obviously a fine line between being annoying and being salesy, but also like, if you know that it's something that people, if you believe in your product, you should find ways to talk about it in an authentic way, not just like buy.
Yeah,
but,
exactly. I have to remind myself. I have to remind myself that all the time, because like, you know, I even have hats, and if I don't post that I have hats, the hats are not going to sell.
Right.
And so it's like, I don't want to be annoying by posting every day or every week, hey, this is for sale or designed for sale. But if you don't do it, people won't know. And that's that, it's like, do you want us to be sitting with, product on the shelf?
No.
No.
I think there's also, okay, so you could post a picture of you just like Friday introductions, and then you make no notice of the hat. You like don't say anything, but it's there. And so someone who was like, oh, that's right, I wanted to get one of those hats, it's like they're reminded. Or someone in the comments says, hey, dude, that hat is dope, where do I get it? Or you do a collab, you accept collab posts from people who are tagging you in it, or you like literally ask your friends, hey, would you share about my hats? Like, would you post your stories? And you have to make sure that it's the right community. Like this idea
Totally.
of like influencer marketing.
What hat are we talking about? I don't know what hat.
Right. And it's like this idea. So when my first book came out, we sent it to a couple influencers, and some of them were like would just be like, cool, my friend wrote a book. And it was like so unauthentic because they didn't give a shit about the book. And it's like, instead, the people who are going to naturally share about it and be like, oh my God, I read this book and it changed my life, or oh my gosh, I learned so much, those are the posts that actually convert people. And so if you're going to ask someone, like, and I'm saying this as someone like my personal self, that's why we have a filter at Goodtype of what we're going to share, because I'm trying to think of the right way to say this, but like just anyone sharing your work like is not a recipe for success. Like it's not just going to like, I don't have any expectations when we share something to Goodtype. We are not making a promise that like you're going to blow up or anything like that. We're just sharing it because we really like it, and we know someone else will like it too, whether that's a follow, a like, or it just like piques their interest. But I think you have to go in with this intention of like, I'm not trying to blow up here. I'm just trying to like have someone find joy out of my products or my work or whatever. And I think when you can find those, like, I think the like term they use in the business world is like brand evangelists, is like people who love your work so much that they would just talk about it because they want to. That's so cool. But like, you can also ask your friends who do love your work, like, would you mind sharing about this? Like, I just launched something. Would you like comment on this? Like, that's okay.
There's a true cause and effect. So it's the same thing with marketing. It's the same thing with like anything. I mean, there was a time where I started making reels about tools and tips and tricks in Illustrator and whatnot. And I got a lot of like artists like following me, but what I realized is what I was not getting is more clients,
Exactly.
And so there's just this whole thing that it was just funny because I really wasn't realizing like cognizantly of like what I was trying to accomplish here. Like, was like my goal to get more followers? And if it was, then I'm doing something right. And if it's not that and it's to get more clients, then I'm doing something wrong.
Exactly.
But like, to have that initial discussion, at least with yourself or like with somebody else, and try to make value towards like where you're trying to go within your business is so important. And like, that's lost a lot.
I think with the fonts, like trying to circle it back, it's the same exact thing, but just doing a like story post that says like, would you buy a font if I made one? Like that's not validation. Like you need receipts.
I've realized that the hard way. Where, people saying yes on a story is no true connotation to them wanting their product.
Pre-sales, or like just opening your ears to like, are people asking you the same thing in the comments? Are clients asking you for a specific thing? What are you the go-to person for? And if you're not yet, then like keep throwing spaghetti at the wall and figure out. That's the same thing with my personal account page. Before we had Goodtype, I was like, none of my clients came from Instagram. All of them came from outreach. And I was like, so why am I so obsessed with posting to Instagram? Because like, I'm not getting new clients from it. And like the followers, I don't have products that they're buying. So what's the point? What's the point of like spending 2 hours a day, like making content? Like I wanted to, but I was like, that's actually not helping me get to my goals. which might be why I have like an unhealthy addiction to TikTok, because it is fun and it is like another sense of community, and you can make stuff so much faster and show up. And I just think there's so many different ways. And so if you wanted to answer your question in a real long-winded way, is if you want to make fonts, like see is that the thing people would buy from you, and then test the waters. Like, do you even enjoy the process? Because it's way different than designing one piece.
Oh,
You know,
for
it is
sure.
like a system.
Everything has to be like so well balanced, and the same style and marking needs to, you know, translate over to the next letter. They all need to look cohesive. I've been thinking about designing a font a lot more lately, but I'm so intimidated by it, because it's like, am I gonna be able to pull this off? Am I gonna be able to build something that looks like a cohesive family together?
Right.
Like,
And in that case, like maybe it's a partnership. Maybe it's a way for you to work with another group of designers or type designers that you admire. Like, is there a way for you to create a couple letters and they could flesh it out, and you have some sort of you know, like there's so many ways to collaborate on the internet these days.
Miles, I know you're watching. I'll be hitting you up soon.
It's so funny you said that, because my dad's name is Miles, and I was like, what? Really? Shout out to my dad, Miles. Yeah, so any sort of like passive income that you think, whether it's like people asking if you want to print or whatever, I think like absolutely test it out. And there's so many ways now that are so low risk, like Society6 or Printful or whatever, Creative Market. You can just test it and be like, did I enjoy this process? Was it helpful? You don't even have to advertise it. You could just see if you like it, like go through the motions.
For sure.
But just going backwards and just making sure, is this aligned with like my audience, who I want to be targeting? Or is it like a pivot you're ready to make? That's fine too. Like go ahead and pivot all you want and try something new. So it's so personal, but I mean, I'm all about it. If someone wants to learn how to make a font and it's going to be a good thing for them, great. I love a good font purchase.
Well, that's like the perfect full circle of learning, I think, all encompassing, right? Of like how to start a business, keep motivated during your business. And I think if there isn't anything else, I was wondering if you wanted to give like a two seconds or a 2-sentence thing about like some advice to leave us with, anything that we haven't talked about before. Yeah.
Oh man.
Loaded gun.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I said loaded gun.
Yeah, I know, right? You know, I think one of the things I mentioned is like chasing passion, which I think is like both really great and really like overused advice. I just feel like if you're not enjoying it, like find a way to make it more fun, because that's kind of why we do it. Like there is a lot of risk and uncertainty in working for yourself. And if you can find ways to make it fun, even when you're like, oh, I have to do taxes, like find a way to make it more bearable. But also, I think my biggest thing that has been the game changer for me is just collaboration. When Katie was like, do you want to do this class together? I was like, absolutely. And I think she would say the same thing, never would have thought I'd have a business partner after like going solo for so long, and thinking that, not that I was better than anyone, but that like no one could do what I wanted to do in my business. Like I couldn't hire help, and doing that and coming at my business with a sense of community is just, I mean, literally the game changer. There are so many things I have done that Katie has had to correct. And there are so many things that I have learned from Katie,
For sure.
the rest of our team. And just like to be able to know that I'm not in it alone, like literally there are at least 3 other people helping us at any given moment. It's just a real nice feeling. So I think surround yourself, even if it's just like a mastermind or a contractor or something, like find other people who are kind of in your arena and like make friends with them, play nice.
Totally. To contrast that, and I'll keep it short, that's what me and Cole are to each other. Just like not so much business partners, but like podcast hosts, but as friends. You know, he's one of the only people that I have, you know, one of the only friends that I have that I can talk to about art and design.
Right.
And it makes it exciting. So, when you have someone that gets the struggles that you're kind of going with, it makes those struggles easier. So it's like, say if I'm struggling with how a design looks, I'll run it past Cole. He'll
Yeah.
give me his notes, and I'll take those more serious than I would, don't kill me, Haley, but I take it more seriously than my girlfriend.
I was literally just gonna say, I bet your girlfriend probably doesn't have unless she's a designer.
Yeah. She's an artist. She's not a designer, but I really take his, his opinion really seriously. And that's the kind of people you need to surround yourself with, is people who get it.
It gives you that validation, and like, Haley, I'm sure you're wonderful. But like my husband, I'll like run business stuff past him, and then I'm like, why did I, like, no offense, I love you with all my heart and soul, Greg, but like, why did I even ask you? Like, you don't even know the story.
Yeah.
You don't know the context. Like,
I've totally never had that thought in my life after asking Haley anything.
well, it was so funny. The other day, we just relaunched our website, and Katie like really got into the nitty gritty of some of the code, and she showed her husband, and he was like, cool, babe, like, great job. And she was like, that just took me like 5 weeks and 80 billion hours. That's all you have to say. And he was like, I don't know what it took, honey. Like, you did awesome. It looks great, but like, what do you want to say?
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, you're right. You were very nice. But it was just so funny because we're like looking for this validation of from people who like are not in the arena. Like, they have no idea.
Right.
And so having people who you can say like, does this make sense? And
Yeah.
that you value their feedback if they say like, no, it sucks.
Yeah.
That's so important. And to find those people, like, it takes some vulnerability, it takes some searching, and to find someone who like is on the same page as you can really be a game changer, especially when you're working by yourself.
Of course.
Yeah.
You basically created that with Goodtype too. I mean, like, you have a community and network of people that when you post something, they're like, this is really cool. And they know that it's cool because they are like in the same realm, they know what it takes to like create something like that.
Right.
or don't, and appreciate.
Right, they totally don't half the time. They're
Yeah.
like, wow, how did you do that?
Exactly, which is like adding to how amazing a piece really is, because we're the only ones that can really appreciate something like that. And that's what's just cool in general about everything that has to do with like the art community and being able to talk to one another and doing this podcast and hanging out with you. And it's been awesome. So thanks so much
thanks for having
you,
me.
Ilana. You were amazing. Like, thank you so much for coming on.
Yes.
Thanks. Anytime, I'll talk your ear off.
Yeah.
Before we leave, do you want to tell everyone where they can find you on Instagram personally and Goodtype, of course?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Ilana Griffo, Ilana, spelled like real different. And we're at Goodtype and goodtype.us. We just like to, change things up, goodtype.us instead of .com. And then we just joined TikTok at Love Goodtype. Somebody took Goodtype.
Bastards.
And like they don't even post. So we're like, how do we get this from you? And I'm just Ilana Griffo everywhere. I tried to get Ilana, but
and Katie's
much more famous.
Information as well.
Katie made that. She's not on the Tickety Talk though.
Okay.
And her personal
Katie made that for everything. Yeah.
Her at is Katie made that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's a great Instagram handle.
It is pretty great. She's pretty great. Her work is top notch.
Hell yeah. We'll have to have her on next time.
Absolutely. That would be so much fun.
Well, thank you so much, Ilana, for coming on. Thank you for being a pal and doing this. This is a great episode to come back to. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Woo.
Thank you for being a pal.
Hey, you probably thought the episode was over, but it's not. And there's only one thing left that you need to do before your pen tool disappears this week. And that is like, subscribe, and go watch these videos if you haven't. So thank you, and see you next week, pal.